minute to tell James to not make any clattering. Hello everyone, just having a look. I've just got back from Trans Madeira racing, well, the enduro race in Madeira. I'm just having a look through the photos. Been an amazing week in Madeira. It's a multi-stage enduro race, 5 days racing, partially uplifted, but really you get massive amounts of riding. So we were doing 1,000 meters of pedaling, 2,000 meters of uplift, but 3,000 meters of descending pretty much every day. So, 40 minutes of timed racing on the first day. It was amazing. A better back here. So Trans Madeira was, like I say, a multi-day race, but you also kind of camped each night. So the first night we turned up and there's lots of tents set out on the beach, 130 competitors, tents set out on the beach. You get given a tent each, and that's where you stay for the duration of the race. Loads of international people, so worldwide. There was people from Brazil, Australia, a few Americans, lots of Europeans obviously, and loads of Brits, because the Brits turn up to a lot of these things. I kind of booked this race 2 years ago, but then COVID meant it didn't happen until this year, or I hadn't been able to go to this year. My mates that were originally going pulled out, but I ended up going with a bunch of people from the Forest of Dean that I know, who were all absolutely flat out, which was quite interesting. Good following them this week. So camp on the beach, wake up in the morning, get your bike kit on and stuff and ready, go and have some breakfast, and then you got on a bus and they took you 1,000 meters or so up the hill, 1,500 meters up the hill to start racing. And every day kind of followed the same format. Really good social event. One of my customers was there, which was really nice. So I met a chap called David McKendry, who, an Irish guy, rode with him a lot. It was good to ride with one of my customers on an event like that. Real variation in track. So nothing was massively steep, but really long tracks. I think the shortest track was, well, there was one that was 2 minutes where I got lost bizarrely and went the wrong way. And then other than that, 4 minutes up to like 10 minutes, but 10-minute tracks. So compared to what we ride in the UK, where we're, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes for some of the longest South Wales tracks, 10 minutes, flat out, hanging on for dear life, racing again, so you're even more hanging on for dear life as you just keep rolling the bike. But then was some really interesting parts. So on day 3 they called it Adventure Day. So day 3 was less stages, so most of the days were 6 or 7 stages. Day 3 was only 4 stages. So we did 2 stages in the morning and then went to a kind of rest stop. And I smashed my rear wheel. I'll show you when I talk my bike, riding one of the fast rocky tracks, and I put a massive gash in the sidewall, totally smashed my rear wheel. So I spent like an hour trying to bodge an inner tube in, and I actually patched up the tyre with some bark of a gum tree to patch up the gash in the tyre, and got that fixed. Got to the station, had to get a new tyre from the mechanic or the repair station, had to get a new tyre fitted. And then we had this traverse, and it was, you started off at this kind of top of this thing that they called the Madeira Massage, and it was a probably 500, 600, 700 meter descent down an old walking path, but an old cobbled walking path. So it's but into a tight hairpin, and you grab your brakes, and then so probably 10 minutes coming down this, bouncing your way down this thing, and then a climb back up the other side, and the climb back up the other side again, 500 or 600 meters, but proper hiker bike on your shoulders. Because I'd bust my wheel, I was the last person doing the climb. I had to catch up with people, so I had 20 minutes of going up this climb on my own before I caught, actually with a Dutch chap, Belgian chap. We were the last 2 people, and then we caught up the remaining people, and then just kept going up this thing, and it was a very hard climb, real steep walking track. And then after that, another 10k or so, sort of traverse. And then a really interesting thing, which was things called levadas. So they're irrigation channels on the island. kind of concrete irrigation channels with a little path down the side that you can ride along. And we traversed, I don't know, maybe 10, 15K on these levadas. And some of it was going through tunnels. So a 6-foot high tunnel, maybe a mile long, with sort of a, I don't know, 12-inch concrete strip on the edge that you had to push your bike along with your bike lights on. And it was, you're pushing along like this for 10, 15 minutes. But that was a real, that whole day was a real adventure, really hard work. But then followed at the end by 2 amazing stages. One which was just flat out, loose, dusty berms, or kind of loamy berms, just really fast down a channel. And then the stage after that was really good, fast and flowy, but in the gum trees, a few kind of gum routes, but just really big, fast corners you could let go on. So just, an amazing experience, really. I'd recommend it to everyone. And I've gone away having met some really nice people, made some good friends. Amazing amount of riding. I didn't do too bad. I got 9th out of 42 in the old man category. And if I rode a bit better and didn't crash as much, I'm like, probably could have done better. But everybody says that, so that's kind of fine. So yeah, I'd love to, highly recommend it to everyone. But let's have a look at the bike. Okay, so this is the bike I took to Madeira. It's my my personal Murmur, so it's a stainless Murmur with Öhlins coil fork on the front, Öhlins coil shock on the rear. Beautiful and supple, lovely and reliable, good support. So the suspension's really good. The main changes are kind of made for the race were really tee down in terms of the wheels and the brakes, and just making sure everything was working properly. So, in fact, first time I've ever had a 12-speed drivetrain. I've always run 11-speed, never seen an issue in the UK. But with the long climbs, we put a 12-speed on to get a bit more range, which was useful. The brakes, I'm running Magura MT7, so just masses of power. I had no issues all week. I normally run 180, but I did put a 200mm disc on the front for the race just to give me a bit more power, and again had no issues with my brakes at all. But the biggest difference was to the wheels. So front wheel, I think it's an XM 481 rim, which is pretty standard that I use, but I put on a new Michelin Raceline tyre. So this is kind of almost a downhill tyre. It's tougher than the Michelin Wild Enduro. It's heavier. One of the things when you're riding all these long, tough tracks and when you're racing, you just hit everything so hard, and the heavyweight tyres just help massively with, damping out the bike, or just making the bike more comfortable and letting you keep going when you're racing. So heavyweight tyre on the front. I kind of cocked up a little bit that I put an Michelin AM tyre, so like a trail tyre, but the Michelins are tougher than most trail tyres on the rear. But I will actually put a Cushcore XC in, and it wasn't enough protection. So I talked about I destroyed the rim, I totally destroyed the rear. I had to buy a Maxxis downhill tyre whilst out there. They put a DT Swiss kind of downhill rim on. So I wish I'd gone out there from the start with a proper heavy downhill tyre on the rear. I think that's the thing I'd most recommend. And it's weird, even though you can ride all year in the UK and not have any issues, it's the second you're racing and the second you're going flat out, I think just having those heavy tyres works. So other than that, it's pretty standard bike. Some people, this is the Murmur Enduro, it's 140 rear. Some people might say 140 rear is not a lot of travel, but just no issues at all with that. Just didn't matter at all. It performed really well. It's like if it was me that slowed it down, it was never the bike. It's just me wanting, if I could let go of the brakes a bit more, I'd do better. But so yeah, there you go. Still got a bit of Murmur dust on, still got a bit of Madeira dust on it. So there you go, that's my race bike. So yeah, everyone do the Trans Madeira. It was an amazing experience. Now I've got to thank the people who organised it. They did a great job. Thanks to the mechanics who kind of rescued me by building me a new reel overnight. They were staying up overnight to fix everybody's bikes. Food was amazing, yeah, everything was amazing. And lastly, well done to Dave Cracky from Forest of Dean, who got second place in vets category, and he's very modest, he doesn't think he's fast, but he's absolutely flat out, and yeah, brilliant for him to get second.
What was he riding?
Another bike, another brand of bike.